Welcome back to the Infernal Dispatch, your source for the most vital news, context, and commentary on Satanism and Theistic Satanism in our modern age. Today's episode takes a sharp and urgent look at how faith, law, culture, and public perception are colliding with unprecedented intensity. From a landmark federal court decision in Idaho to state-level oppression in Russia, and from the murky shadows of revived Satanic Panic narratives to the resilience of occult communities online, the landscape is volatile and charged like never before. This episode unpacks the full story, synthesizing recent developments with deeper historical insight and practical implications for Satanist practitioners, legal advocates, journalists, and cultural analysts. Strap in for a detailed journey through the challenges and opportunities this moment offers. Section 1, Legal Frontlines. The Satanic Temple's Idaho setback. The biggest legal news this week resonates deeply within the activist Satanist community. On November 13th, 2025, a federal district court in Idaho decisively dismissed the Satanic Temple's challenge against the state's abortion laws. Background. This lawsuit, originating in 2022, contended that Idaho's post-Dobbs abortion restrictions not only violated constitutional rights, but also infringed upon the religious freedoms of TST members, specifically their belief that abortion access is a fundamental tenet of their faith. The suit argued the law essentially enslaved pregnant women by controlling their reproductive autonomy. The ruling, U.S. District Judge David C. Nye ruled the case legally unsound. Initially dismissed in 2024 for lack of legal standing, the court reaffirmed that the Satanic Temple lacked standing because it could not identify any actual member directly affected in Idaho or any Idaho resident who sought services through the group. The court dismissed it with prejudice, blocking amendment attempts. Idaho's Attorney General Raul Labrador praised the ruling as a victory for protecting both mothers and unborn children, asserting that the court affirmed the state's values. Why does this matter? For TST, this ruling represents a major hurdle, closing a prominent outlet for challenging restrictive abortion laws via religious freedom arguments. The decision forces TST and allied groups to reconsider strategies, potentially shifting efforts away from courtroom litigation to political advocacy, grassroots activism, or legislative lobbying. Fundraising and media messaging will likely pivot, as this loss is both a practical and symbolic setback. The ruling also sets a precedent impacting how courts may treat religious associations asserting rights without direct, tangible injury claims, an important point for faith-based activism. Section 2. The historical and cultural revival of Satanic Panic. While legal battles rage, media narratives are revisiting past moral panics. Recently, a new true crime feature aired revisiting a murder-suicide case from the 1980s New Jersey, historically framed as satanic web patch. This coverage is part of a broader media trend fueling renewed public anxiety and misinformation tied to Satanic Panic, a phenomenon that originally peaked decades ago with catastrophic consequences for communities and individuals. What's different now? Today's panic is less about ritual abuse allegations and more intertwined with digital culture wars, the spread of misinformation on social media, its entanglement with queer and trans identities, and political debates over cultural values. This resurgence risks mischaracterizing peaceful Satanist practices, both atheistic and theistic, by evoking emotional fears rooted in decades-old stereotypes. Such narratives complicate efforts by modern satanic groups to achieve cultural legitimacy and understanding. Practitioners aware of these risks are actively engaging in public education and harm reduction, often through safer forums and vetted discourse communities online. Section 3. Community resilience and digital ecosystem dynamics. Amid negative media cycles, satanic practitioners and groups have consolidated their spaces, moving away from mainstream social media platforms to niche forums, specialized Reddit subreddits, and private Discord servers. In the last 3 days alone, communities such as Ra'at demonolatry practices and theistic Satanism subreddits saw heightened activity centered on exchanging ritual practice tips, discussing media portrayals and legal developments, sharing harm reduction strategies against harassment or misinformation. These platforms act as critical self-governance spaces for knowledge, safety, and collective identity formation. For observers and researchers, they provide real-time insights into emergent trends, grassroots organizing, and community sentiment. Section 4. The marketplace and ritual commerce. Ritual paraphernalia and symbolic jewelry remain in stable demand. Recent Etsy listings from November 11th show fresh entries for items like Baphomet rings and printed grimoires, underscoring an active niche market. This steady commerce highlights opportunities for entrepreneurs and content creators focused on occult and ritual markets, a need for sensitivity to platform policies that may restrict certain imagery or content. The continued cultural significance of satanic iconography among practitioners and sympathizers. Merchandising remains a quiet but vital component, tethering community identity and economic sustainability. Section 5. Political symbolism and media narratives. An op-ed published November 11th explores how satanic imagery and symbolism play active roles in U.S. political rhetoric. This piece signals that Satan is a powerful cultural symbol weaponized in wider culture wars. Associations between political factions and Satanism, real or imagined, continue to shift public and media perceptions. The ongoing political framing could impact how organizations manage public relations and advocacy. Understanding this symbolic currency is important for satanic groups aiming to navigate and influence national discourse. Section 6. The international scene. Russia and beyond. While lesser covered in these 3 days, it is important not to lose sight of state-level repression globally. Russia's Supreme Court has labeled an international Satanism movement as extremist, enabling asset freezes and broad legal actions against loosely defined groups. This sets a dangerous precedent, portending wider crackdowns on non-traditional spiritual groups in authoritarian settings, amplifying risks for Satanists worldwide. Expert commentary and reflection. Religious diversity scholar Dr. Helena Ortiz remarks, Satanism today sits at a paradoxical nexus, simultaneously gaining legal and social footholds in democratic countries, while facing intensified persecution in authoritarian landscapes and a resurgent cultural panic. This tension will define its trajectory in the coming years. From legal experts analyzing the Idaho ruling to grassroots leaders fostering safer online spaces, the community response underscores adaptability amid adversity. Closing thoughts. Between courtrooms, digital battlegrounds, and public square controversy, Satanism, and especially theistic Satanism, is navigating a fierce, multifaceted sea. These are not abstract debates, but battles for identity, representation, and most fundamentally, the rights and dignity of millions. As this story continues to unfold, vigilance, historical understanding, and strategic communication will be crucial. Whether as advocates, observers, or allies, understanding this complex web in 2025 is vital. Thank you for listening to the Infernal Dispatch. Stay informed, stay vigilant.